Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars movies that are currently in the works as well, by George, Jon, and Dave Filoni. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, we are getting very close to the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series release date on May 27th. They moved it by 2 days, and they will be featuring 2 episodes on the very first day that the show debuts on Disney+. So that is a big addition to, of course, Disney making it up to the fans by delaying the actual series by 2 days. Now, when you look at everything related to what's been going on with everything related to the new Star Wars projects that will be unveiled and announced at Star Wars Celebration this year, which, by the way, is going to be a big deal for Star Wars fans around the world because it's going to actually show us a bigger picture of the roadmap of the franchise and exactly which TV shows are going to be coming out before or after other TV shows out there. And Star Wars Celebration of 2023 is going to even expand it further, so just keep that in mind. Now, everything related to what George, Jon, and Dave are currently doing is that they are finding ways to balance the Star Wars universe by using both Legends and the current Disney canon material, and exactly everything that falls directly into line with the Star Wars franchise of all the beloved characters from Legends and how they are going to mix in together with already existing characters under Disney. So with that being said, however, one thing that a lot of fans have been very upset over for the past number of years, ever since the debut of The Last Jedi back in 2017, was exactly how the sequel trilogy was executed by Kathleen Kennedy and, of course, by Lucasfilm as a whole. However, with Disney and Lucasfilm now focused on their new Star Wars TV shows like Ahsoka, Mando Season 3, and others that will be unveiled at Star Wars Celebration, it's described, however, that when creator Steven Spielberg was recently approached about the Halo TV series and was questioned about all of it, they eventually got on the subject of the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies to where Steven Spielberg was able to state, "Let me just say one thing about the newest movies by Lucasfilm and Disney is that they needed George. George was missing. That magic was just gone. I didn't know what to feel with the new movies. It just felt like a hot mess at times, like it needed more energy or spirit. It felt soulless to me because I know George and I know what George would have done with the newer films that Disney didn't really connect too well with the fans. It was a true disappointment among many fans, and I think that Kathleen Kennedy really needed to have a better form of leadership when it came down to producing those movies. Each and every year I kept saying to myself, maybe they will get George this time, or maybe George will be more prominent in this installment. But to my surprise, George was left out from those movies." Now let me just stop right there for 1 second of what Steven is saying here, is that essentially he is being more vocal this time around about how he feels about how his great friend George Lucas was left out of the sequel trilogy in its entirety. Now, one would argue, yes, okay, George Lucas sold Lucasfilm over to Disney. He allowed them to take over the company of Lucasfilm. But let's not forget, it was not George's fault, because Kathleen Kennedy is the one that promised George, both in person and in that famous interview back in 2013, that she was going to respect the characters that he had created, that she was going to respect the storylines that he had created, and the overall Star Wars brand in general, that she was going to respect. And she did a complete 360. You know, she really lied to George's face. She stabbed him in the back. She completely betrayed the guy. And he didn't really see this coming at all. Now, I myself personally, when I first heard the news back in, 2012, that Disney was taking over Lucasfilm, I felt a little off. I really wasn't quite sure how I felt about that. It didn't really seem like the greatest call by George Lucas. He could have actually approached somebody else besides Disney, to be honest with you guys. I think that anybody other than Disney would have been a better choice. So one could argue that maybe George made the mistake of selling Lucasfilm to Disney, but I digress. He didn't see this coming because he was promised about all of Kathleen Kennedy's, words of respecting the franchise and such around those lines. However, Steven Spielberg goes on to say this, is that I won't blame him for not attending the premiere of the last film for episode 9. I still talk with George, I'm very close with him, and we have some interesting conversations from time to time. But all I can tell you is that George really didn't seem happy at all when Disney was producing these movies. They had so many opportunities to use Lucas's ideas that he kept throwing at them, and they ignored it each and every time. George would always tell me how disappointed he was of how they rejected even the most minor details that he wanted to be used in the newest movies, and it really made him emotional. For those wondering, I watched all 3 films, and it just lacked something that the originals had, or even the prequels had by George, which I know got lots of criticism as well, but it still had that magic to it all. It still had that spirit intact with George, of course, and what he created all those years ago. He goes on to say that I feel like Disney learned their lesson, now given that he is lending a great hand with Mr. Favreau and Mr. Filoni. They really are doing a beautiful job with the use of TV shows and streaming. It's a great time for fans without a doubt. I wish them all their best. The newest movies also had problems with paying tribute to the Skywalkers, which I can say really bothered George. He didn't really say any of this coming with the new Star Wars movies. I will admit that I love the Han Solo film and really enjoyed with what they did with the Rogue One movie. But the main movies really felt out of place and disjointed, and the fans were not in the wrong with how they overall felt. You just can't treat a franchise like a product. You have to treat it like a personal item to a fan base if it's something as big as Star Wars. It's something special to the fans' hearts. So let me just point something out here about Steven Spielberg, alright, and what he was able to say. Is that everything related to Steven Spielberg is that he really does know George Lucas and how he operates as a creator. He also knows exactly, what George Lucas has been doing for all these years with the prequels and the originals. In case you guys did not know, Steven Spielberg actually helped the Battle of Mustafar between Anakin and Obi-Wan. He helped a great deal with that scene. He helped George Lucas on that. And I think that that is a big reason as to why the climax to the prequel trilogy really was something special, is because both George and Steven Spielberg worked together on that. Spielberg did a lot of the storyboards for the Mustafar battle, in case you guys didn't know, and George Lucas used a lot of that to kind of, help himself with that. So I think that, given with Disney and Lucasfilm and where they're heading right now, they're finally realizing that not only are the fans speaking up more and more, but even people that were not only a part of the sequels, but other people that are very prominent in Hollywood and high up in Hollywood are beginning to speak out against the sequel trilogy movies. And it just goes to show you that the fans were really in the right all along. Disney really tried their absolute best to make it seem like the fans speaking up were just a minority and not a majority, and as if they were in the wrong for even speaking their opinion. Obviously, that's the complete opposite. Everybody was right on how the sequel trilogies were, made. Obviously, the sequel trilogy films were out of place, they didn't really feel right, and Spielberg is right on the money with all of this. So overall, guys, let me know what you think about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No hiding from night to moon.